Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and it's time for another Kickstarter roundup. Now, just as a heads up, next week I don't yet know if there will be a Kickstarter roundup, but rest assured there will definitely be something Kickstarter related, a list of top 10 Kickstarters I wish I backed, or we'll figure out something. There'll be something there, but just in terms of the schedule, it looks like next week's fairly light. In fact, even this week is fairly light. Now, this video is probably not as light as I would like because I have a bunch of updates, a few things either not funding or one cancellation, all the usual stuff, and hopefully timestamps down below to everything, including my picks of the week if I actually remember to do them properly this time. And with that said, starting off the bat, we have a first cancellation, which is going to be Final Fusion. Final Fusion, like I said already last week, it was struggling along, wasn't really getting very far. They officially did decide to cancel it. They're going to be coming back and rebranding as Battlefield Golden Star. I appreciate the art already more. I find this just pulls me in far more than this box over here, but we'll see. We'll see. They'll be focusing on taking some time, getting the word out there, doing different things, the usual stuff we see in between a cancellation and a relaunch. I assume we'll come back with I assume we'll see it come back with a smaller pledge, a funding goal, as well as probably a cheaper price, but those are just pure speculation. I don't know. We will see. Moving on from there, we have Overstocked. Overstocked's going to be one of two or three, it looks like three we have, three not funding before we get into the updates. So, Overstocked is going to be a game that, honestly, this game looks delightful. I don't know if it's good, but it looks delightful. The art is cheery and pretty to look at, and the gameplay looks simple and engaging. So effectively, you know those games where you layer things on top of another, you have to kind of like put some areas on top of another card, and you're trying to figure out a balance of how to align these things up. The games that do it, there's a series of two games that really do this well. Blanking on the name. Also the Hanging Gardens, if you ever played that. There are a bunch of games that use that mechanic. What makes Overstocked unique, in my opinion, is it's giving you 6 cards, and it's basically you're running a toy store, so to speak. And you're going to get 6 cards. Your 6 cards are the only 6 cards you have the whole game. And on your turn, you reveal a card and play it, and it will either go to the center area, which is the popularity hub, so to speak. This is what determines popularity of the various toys, or alternatively, you put it into your own store, into your warehouse, which is the toys you have. And the score at the end of the game is how popular something is, times how many you have of that thing, with the catch that the most popular toy, well, nobody wants that anymore. That's, overstocked. And so that one will actually score negative points. Now, I personally think they should have it as a variant to not have that, because some people like that kind of extra thinkiness. Some people are just not interested in that kind of gamble. Either way, it is an interesting mechanism. It's just an interesting combination of the aspect of this game we've seen before, because you have both your own personal area plus a common pool. Now, some cards have workers in them, which will prevent you from putting down a card on them. Overall, it looks like a cute game. Cute art, easy theme, tried and true gameplay mechanics. We don't know how well they work in this game, but from what I've seen content creation wise, it looks pretty good. Price points coming in at roughly, what was it? It was roughly $20, I think, or $23, £16 to get this game, plus, of course, shipping. Moving on to the next not funding. The next not funding is going to be Blooming Industry, which is also struggling along. And again, it's interesting to see, like some of these games I would have assumed they wouldn't have particularly high funding goals, but there's a difference between having particularly high versus just not funding at all. And Blooming Industry, even with a $13,000 goal, is currently not funding. This is a game, it's a tile placement game, where you're basically trying to grow these like tulip farms and then sell your tulips and manage all that as you go through it. The art, I don't know what it is about this one that isn't pulling people in enough to back it. It could be the art. The art's got a very simple feel to it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I would have thought that this would have been funding. I would not have thought it'd be doing as poorly as it is right now, so I'm curious about that one. But yeah, I'm intrigued. Blooming Industry, if you're paying attention to it, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it does fund. We have 24 days to go. That said, not crossing the halfway hump within the first few days is usually not the best sign. Moving on to XYZ Quarks. Speaking of not crossing the halfway hump within the first few days, although this one is a little closer. This one may well fund before the end of the campaign. We'll have to see. XYZ Quarks is going to be a series of 3 games packed into travel-sized little plastic containers from Game Nerds. Basically the little clip-on plastic containers. You can take a look. They just open and close as you might imagine a plastic container would. This game is giving you 3 games, giving you New Year's Eve, Cultivate, and Bait and Switch. The game's going to give you the page gives you some quick general overviews of the game. So we have a Crashing the Party in New Year's Eve, which has an element of bluffing as you try to get your animals to get into the party. We have the Cultivate, which is going to be a drafting and planting game, and then we have Bait and Switch, which is going to involve an element of social deduction for 3 to 9 players. As every round you try to pick a crew, figure out what to do, and go through that. 3 small, simple games giving you simple gameplay. Don't know much about them yet, but we'll see. I'll be looking more into them as well. And yeah, this is again another one that's just not yet funding. And this is from the company that actually, you know what I just played this week? I literally played this yesterday. So I played this their last game. The last game is Arch Ravels, and I just played this game yesterday with my wife, and this was delightful. So probably have a review on this one coming soon, but I am surprised considering how well this one did. 1,800 backers, $100,000. I'm not saying I think this game would do as well. In general, groups of games, unless handled really well, which means unless you're board game tables, generally groups of games don't do that well on Kickstarter. They see an underperformance because, and this, for instance, each of these games is available for $12, but if you get all three, it's $30, which means the best deal is if you get all three. But if you're not interested in all three, at that point you're like, well, why should I even get one? Because I'm not interested in all three, and getting one of them is not the best deal. You often have these problems with groups of games when companies put out 3 or 4 games together at once, or even 2 or 3 games together. It splits the focus. Unless handled really well, it can do yourself a disservice rather than a service. In any case, moving on from there, we have Buru. So this is going to be the update section of things. We have 4 or 5 updates. Looks like 4 updates before we move on to the new stuff. Buru, there's not much of an update here. They unlocked all the stretch goals. They have 31 hours to go, or well, by the time you watch this, there's 5 or 6 hours to go. Short version of this is I put out a review of this on Saturday, so I have a review went up, gave it a 4 or 5. I really like aspects of the game. I really like the blind bidding. I really like the general sequence of going through things, of getting your resources, getting your villagers, activating your villagers, bidding for gods, all those things. I specifically gave it a 4 or 5 with the Amblo expansion. Without that, it's easily a 3 or 5. I think that Amblo expansion is necessary, because my biggest critique of it is that even with the Amblo expansion, it feels like the gameplay is fairly linear. Also, I'd like to see some more abilities or differences on the cards, whether the scoring cards you get, or even just the villagers you add to your tableau, all that stuff. But overall, really enjoyed it. I really like the blind bidding. I really like the core gameplay. I want it to be a bit more, but that's why 4 out of 5 and not 5 out of 5. But yeah, that was going to be Buru, review up on Saturday. Moving up, well, past Saturday, not coming up. Moving on, we have Keystone North America. This is another one I had a playthrough and review with my wife. This one as well, I gave it 4 or 5 as well. Really enjoyed this one. 3 days to go. Again, by the time you're watching this, it might be 2 days to go. But overall, Keystone North America gives you the same gameplay that I've really enjoyed in Canvas, or it has that light feel of it. Honestly, the biggest comparison I could give to it is going to be Canvas. Different games, different playtimes, different other things going on that combine into the game that it is. But the general aspect of picking a card that is right for you, and then trying to combine the various symbols on that card in your grid, because you're building a grid instead of a canvas where you overlay cards. In Keystone North America, you have a grid of 16 cards, 4x4, and where you place them, you're ultimately trying to get everything, and you will not get everything. But how good can you get is a different conversation. Trying to get that perfect optimization. Again, playthrough with my wife. Really enjoyed the playthrough. Looking forward to this one. I'm going to be getting this one. The price point is a little higher than I'd like for that deluxe, especially the all-in and all the tokens and everything. But I liked it, and I generally make bad decisions when I like things. That's going to be Keystone North America. Moving on, Fall of the Mountain King. This one is less of a full update. I will have a full update on this next week, because I want next week, going to have, I won't necessarily be doing next week. Ooh, that's interesting. So we'll see. I'll have to see how this goes, because this and Isle of Cats, I wanted to cover whatever else is the last things to cover next week, right before the campaign ends. Just covering all the stretch goals to update the information, should you back it, should you not, other things, just general awareness and all that. But if I don't do a to back or not to back next week, then maybe I'll throw in updates at the beginning of that video. We'll have to see. But anyways, Fall of the Mountain King, I'm not here for the update so much as a correction. Someone pointed out that I incorrectly called the two. I said the Hall of the Mountain King is going to be the same. I said Fall of the Mountain King is likely to end up at the same $35, $40 price point we see miniature market online stores as in the Hall of Mountain King, but somebody pointed out the MSRPs of these games are very different. In fact, Fall of Mountain King has a $15 higher MSRP than Hall of Mountain King, which means you can expect this to be about $10 to $15 more at least in online stores. So that is just a correction. When I said Fall of Mountain King is likely to be in the $35 range, it's probably likely to be closer to the $45 to $50 range. Again, doesn't really change much, because overall I still thought it was a good back either way in terms of the deluxe versus non-deluxe. I was just comparing deluxe to retail aspects of things, and in that sense there is a bigger gap than I let on. I was incorrectly focusing on the fact that in this Kickstarter, the 2 Kickstarter deluxe pledges are the same price, but that is because if you go to the original Kickstarter for In the Hall of Mountain King, it's actually cheaper. This is just the, hey, you're jumping on the bandwagon a year and a half later, it's a different price point. So it's more of a correction. I just don't want you, I don't want you not backing Fall of the Mountain King because you're like, well, for $35 I'll just wait, and then being upset at me when it's not $35. So basically just an update and correction there. And I'll have further updates on these stretch goals, everything they've unlocked next week, regardless of what video I do, apparently. Moving on from there, we have The Witcher. The Witcher, this is a campaign that's ended. Why are we doing an update on the campaign that's ended? Well, two reasons, really, although it's all kind of, both those reasons are tied to the same idea, which is we didn't have the final pieces of information until like the last day of the campaign, to the point that I dropped a full update video on The Witcher. And of course, the next day they dropped, here's your real all-in pledge, not the fake one we gave you yesterday. Thanks a lot, The Witcher. You're making my job real easy here. But past that, basically the full update, the full all-in pledge they gave us is going to be that they gave us metal coins for 15 euros, playmat board for 30 euros, the metal coins we already knew about, and then they gave us 25 dice for 15 euro. This is an additional dice set. So they're giving you 2 more optional buys, and then they gave you a full all-in that encompasses everything we saw already, plus the 3 accessory upgrades for a 15 euro discount. And so I had a lot of people asking for my comments on that, and these comments I guess are relevant to the pledge manager or editing your pledge or all that stuff, because there will be a pledge manager, still lots of opportunity to jump in. To that end, the math makes this one mostly simple. It depends what you're looking for. If you are interested in the playmat and either of the others, but not the third, well then of course go ahead and get it, because you're getting a 15 euro discount. It's free. If you're interested in the playmat and the coins but not the dice, well, going all in will get you those dice for free, so who cares? That's an obvious one. Where it gets a little trickier is, what if you're interested in the dice and the coins but not the playmat? Well then effectively now you're looking at a 15 euro playmat instead of a 30 euro playmat. It's half off if you go all in. So to that end, I would say it really depends. If you think there's a chance of selling it, then the 15 euro playmat is well worth it. You'll be able to get your money back on that playmat when you're selling this down the road. If you are just getting it for yourself though, and you know you're not going to sell it, you're certain, or even if you don't like it, you just don't sell your games, whatever the reason might be, well then it doesn't really matter how cheap the playmat is. If you don't think you are someone who is likely to use the playmat, a 15 euro playmat is not better than a 30 euro playmat if you're not using it. Which puts me, by the way, in a very difficult spot, because I absolutely like this game. I absolutely love this game, and I'm very excited for all the stuff that they bring in the Kickstarter, and yet I rarely use playmats. So am I going to go all in or not and get that playmat? Am I going to follow my own advice? The cop-out I'm probably going to use is I'm probably going to go all in, and then if I don't end up using the playmat, I'll just sell it for 25 bucks or something like that, or whatever, make more than I paid for it. So that's my cop-out. The chance that I'm going to use the playmat is there, especially when you can consider the expansion, because I'm not a big playmat person to begin with. But when you have expansions condensed onto it and everything's there, it does change the conversation a bit for me, so I'm probably going to be going all in and getting it. I definitely want the coins, that's for sure. The dice I'm tempted by. Honestly, if it weren't for that discount on the all-in pledge, I'd be sticking with the gameplay all-in plus the metal coins. Because they're giving discounts, I find myself tempted by things I probably shouldn't be tempted by. That's overall The Witcher. Past that, look at this number over here. They crossed $8 million. That's absolutely insane. Good for them. Very impressive jump from their previous $200,000 or $300,000, but that is going to be The Witcher, which brings us to drink time. It's going to be drink time, and then followed by new stuff, starting with Proliferation. So, Proliferation. This is going to be 46 hours to go, which means by the time you're watching it, less than a day, or a day-ish left to go. This is going to be a strategy card game where you nuke your friends. I'm not going to overly cover this one in detail. It's basically a game about nuclear warfare where you either are the last man standing, or you're just the most powerful person. There's a few ways you can win the game, but effectively this is going to be a game that seems to be designed by a group of friends who designed the game during the pandemic, and they put out a game. Kudos to them. They did a solid job looking at what we're seeing over here. So overall, it looks pretty cool in that sense. Great graphic here showing you all the cards you get. That's a solid value aspect, a little in your face, but look how much stuff you're getting for the game. The game's going to be coming in at $45 for the economy edition, the short version of this, and then $69 for the standard edition, which is, again, the price points. $199 for the collection edition. Wow, the price points go up here pretty quickly, and then $1,040 for the retail tier. Basically, very ambitious. Whoa, 9,950. I didn't see this one before. 9,950 for the Proliferation Master tier with 2 backers. Whoa, 2 backers? That's 20,000 of their $49,000 is coming from that tier. Well, that's pretty insane. But in any case, Proliferation. Proliferation is going to be a game that, basically this one is, like I said already, nuclear warfare. This does not look like it's coming in from your standard designer board game space. It looks more mass market space in that sense. I don't think you're going to see your value back on this one. While 600 cards is a lot to show you, at the end of the day, it's, a game of Dominion will have 500 cards, and it's much cheaper. So they did a good job showing you how much stuff you're getting, but also the price points are expensive, and I'm just not confident in the gameplay. I'm just covering this one because I got a few comments saying, hey, what about Proliferation? expansion, so I'm covering a game that is designer board game adjacent, so to speak. In fact, I have a few of those that I'll be covering today that are kind of adjacent to the designer board game space. Moving on, we have Dwarf 7 Winter and the Lost Tribes. This is going to be the Kickstarter exclusive version, the Kickstarter exclusive expansion to Dwarf 7 Winter, as well as Dwarf 7 Winter, the base game, if you want that already. If you're not familiar, this company, what's the name of the company again? Vesuvius Media, they're the ones who brought you Catapult Kingdoms recently. They did a solid job over there. Past that, their big offering that they're known for is going to be the Dwarf line of games. They have Dwarf 7 Winter, Dwarf 7 Spring, Dwarf 7 Fall, and then, as you might imagine, because we're looking at it on the page, Dwarf 7 Winter and expansion. The expansion is going to be Kickstarter exclusive. Pay attention to that, because that is the biggest reason you should consider backing this one. So let's go through this. This is going to be a game, tableau building, hard hand management, a little bit of tower defense, joint tower defense as you and other players together basically stop the rampaging hordes from invading, all that. It does have a solo mode, which is helpful because as a joint tower defense game in a competitive environment, that effectively turns into a semi-co-op game, which semi-co-op games always do have that balance, that struggle. I have not played Dwarf 7. I am extrapolating general semi-co-op experience to this game, even though, granted, I have played semi-co-op games that don't bother me. They are the exception and not the norm, but there certainly are those exceptions. Past that, there is solo mode, like I said already, so if that semi-co-op aspect turns you off, but you're interested in a good solo mode, then Dwarf 7 may still have you covered. Overall, this series of games ranges heavily in how well it's ranked on Board Game Geek, ranging from the mid-6s to the high to the low 8s. Dwarf 7 is going to be smack dab in the middle, coming in at a 7, and the expansion looks like it adds more fun things to the game. As far as should you back it, should you not, the short version is these games in general do not hold their value. That $45 price point for the base game over here, $45 for the base game plus shipping. You can buy in the Board Game Geek marketplace generally for in the $25 to $30 range. So in general, these games are clearly not holding their value, but, and there is a big but here, because the expansion is going to be Kickstarter exclusive. That $60 expansion over there, that Kickstarter exclusive $60 expansion, totally changes everything, because as a Kickstarter exclusive expansion that you can't buy elsewhere, it is more likely to hold its value to begin with. But then worse than that, if you look at the backers here, the number of backers on the campaign, those 912 backers, it looks like around 2/3 of them are people who are backing the expansion alone. In other words, roughly 600 people are backing the expansion alone, presumably, not necessarily, but presumably to add an expansion to a game they already like, which means that those copies, those expansions, are less likely to be hitting the secondary market anytime soon. So as a Kickstarter exclusive expansion, where about 300 of the backers are going base game and expansion, and those copies are inherently more likely to hit the secondary market than people who are just buying the expansion, that means the secondary market supply on this Kickstarter exclusive expansion is going to be light. So on the one hand, I would say this game generally will not hold its value. On the other hand, this specific instance of the Kickstarter exclusive expansion, if you are uncertain, if you are on the fence, it might be your best chance to get it just because of that limited availability. Moving on, Fighters of the Pacific. Fighters of the Pacific. This is going to be the second game from Capsium Games. Actually, I don't know if it's the second game. It's the second game on Kickstarter. And so the other game that they had on Kickstarter is going to be Fleet Commander. Fleet Commander, which did surprisingly well. Surprisingly is probably the wrong word. Fleet Commander, which did well. And Fleet Commander also, not only did it do well, it held its value as well. So, going through Fighters of the Pacific, what is this game? This is effectively going to be, well, the art's gorgeous. I love the art already. I'm pulled in by the art and the feel of this game, even though the gameplay is not my thing at all, because this is a very heavily a skirmish game. Different units, different stats, moving your planes around the board, landing on aircraft carriers, deciding whether you're going high altitude, low altitude, taking into account a variety of considerations as you play through this tactical, aerial skirmish combat game. Looks cool, just not typically my kind of style. Past that, the game is going to have a few options. You're going to have the base pledge coming in at $55, and you have the campaign pledge coming in at $97. Let's go ahead and go through that. The base pledge over here is going to be giving you those 8 map tiles that you screw together, the various tokens over here. Keep in mind, if you looked at their original game, what it's called again, this one is not going to be miniature based. This is all token based, so very different genre just in that sense alone. We have all these forces, all the tokens, all the various tokens, the rulebook, all that stuff that you'd expect there. And then we have a bunch of expansions in that campaign pledge. That $97 pledge is coming with 2 expansions, and of course all unlocked stretch goals. Both pledges are coming with stretch goals, and yes, Kickstarter exclusive content. We will go through that. So, what do we have for the Battle of Midway over here? Well, we have more forces. We have the Soria forces, we have the USS Enterprise forces. The USS Enterprise? Really? I just saw that. Yeah, okay, fine. The USS Enterprise. We have the Hiryu forces, we have the Midway forces, we have all that stuff over there. So more stuff. Then we have the expansion 2, Battle of the Coral Sea, which is giving you more stuff. So if you want more various units, airplanes, all those things, that's going to give you more over there. And then, of course, we haven't talked about the stretch goals. Let's go ahead and look through the stretch goals. Then they have the Battle Pledge over here. They're giving you, what is the Battle Pledge? Battle Pledge is the base pledge, and then the campaign pledge is giving you both expansions. And then is the Early Bird expansion, the Early Bird Pledge, which is gone by now, but basically gave you a metallic initiative marker. So basically you got the same game, but you got an initiative marker that was metal. So metal things are nice, but also probably still worth checking this out if you are interested in the game, even if you missed the stretch goal, even if you missed the early bird. From there, we have the stretch goals, most of which are Kickstarter exclusive. This is the part you want to pay attention. Most of these are Kickstarter exclusive, which is the biggest reason this one is likely to hold its value or close to it. So we have just planes and more planes and fleets and planes and the Cuckoo's Nest scenario and the planes, and then this one, the TBF Adventure. This one's not marked as exclusive. It could be an oversight because it's the only one that wasn't, but I assume it's not exclusive. We have the Japanese bomber, we have the heavy fighters, we have another scenario, we have the Neo Show tanker, we have more scenarios, more stuff. Oh, better playmat. That's not exclusive technically. We have the more stuff. I'm just gonna say more stuff here because there's only so many different planes and types I can say, and that is where we are so far. So in other words, a lot of decent amount of Kickstarter exclusive content if you are interested in this game. So where is this one of value? Should you back it? Should you not? Short version is the combination of looking at the earlier campaign, how well it did, the fact that we have 900 backers, $90,000. This is clearly has a target audience, people who are interested in this game, and I can imagine why. It's got, you know, great art, a skirmish game, that the skirmish tactical combat that is probably very much up the alley of a lot of people, and then combine that with a company who has a track record, who has done games in the past, who has done games well, or whatever you want to say. But effectively, that is where we are here. That $97 price point, the only reason I think it is likely to hold its value or close to it is going to be those exclusives. The fact that there are exclusives here does mean that on the secondary market, well, first of all, your options are, you know, Kickstarter, retail, or secondary market. As far as Kickstarter, well, you can back it or not. As far as retail, you'll be cheaper, but you won't be getting those exclusives, so it depends on if you care about that or not. As far as secondary market, it's going to be a question of whether those exclusives are enough for this to hold its value, and I would believe it's going to come close to it or somewhere in that range. I mean, I'm not confident it's going to be, you know, exactly what you paid or whatnot, but I think it'll be somewhere in that range. Moving on to AracKhan Wars. We're making good time today. This is pretty good, only 20 minutes in. Jeez, this is easy to say. So, AracKhan Wars. Famous last words, I know. AracKhan Wars is going to be a two-player tactical card combat game. This is a map we have a grid. I have a review of this one. Very short version is this one is one where you're going to have a faction. You have 4 different factions. You pick a bunch of cards. You can use a pre-constructed deck, or you can build out a deck before the game, not doing the game. And then you're going to go ahead and jump into the game, playing 2 cards around to a grid, and every single round you're going to activate those cards, trying to effectively take out your opponents. As the game develops, one of 2 things will happen. Either units are going to be dying left, right, and center, which can happen, but more often than not, the board will slowly but surely grow as units are entering the board in a way that continuously adds stats and help and support to the game board, as opposed to constantly just wiping out each other back and forth. So that board, you're going to have deaths every round, but overall you will see a slow expansion of the board across those 9 rounds of play, and every round, each player adding 2 cards. So 4 cards per round being added to the board, you know, 1 or 2 dying, slow expansion. At the end of the round, at the end of the game, you're going to go ahead and add up your points on the board, your presence, so to speak, and then that is going to be the person who wins. So killing people is important because, you know, you kill someone, they have less points, but ultimately having the most points is how you win in this game. 4 factions combined with deck construction brings a ton of variability, and that's before we even talk about the various expansions. So there's going to be a bunch of pledge levels over here. We have $48 for the Phalanx pledge, we have $74 for the Champion pledge, and $120 smacking dollars for the Titan pledge. That is a lot of money for a card game. For the 24-hour gift that's being added to everyone's pledge, so this is because the campaign was funded within 24 hours, everyone who orders at the Phalanx pledge or above is going to get the Gray Order Rises. So you do not have to be an early bird person to get this. You just have to back the campaign now that it already was funded. Past that, we have various stretch goals, including Kickstarter exclusive stretch goals, as well as other content we'll get through as well. Just more cards. The art in this game is beautiful across the board. In terms of pledge levels, let's go ahead and go through that. So pledge levels, if we can find them. This is going through the gameplay mechanics, like I said already. Basically, every round you play 2 cards, reveal the cards, activate an order. Every round you switch the order, and then go through it like that. The game is available on Tabletop Simulator, worth pointing that out in case you're interested in checking out there. And the Phalanx Pledge, 4 pre-built decks, plus a whole bunch of other, you know, alternative cards, event cards, objective cards, strategy cards, alternative modes, tokens, all that stuff over there. Then plus all unlocked stretch goals. For €61, $74, we have all of that, and I love when campaigns do this, by the way, when they say everything from the prior pledge, plus here's the new stuff. When they don't make you do that work, when they clearly list and differentiate it, I love when campaigns do that. They're going to give you the Singing Iron expansion, which is giving you 19 more cards for each faction, as well as the Moving Shadow expansion, which is another 19 more cards for each faction. Basically 38 cards times 4, what is that? 38 times 4 is 152 more cards. That sounds pretty good. That's going to be all that, plus of course the stretch goals as well. And then the Titan Pledge, $120, giving you all the stuff from the prior expansion, $120, €99, plus the Buy Our Third expansion pack over here, which is some extremely powerful more cards, the Barcadia Battle Mat, and then the Barcadia Strategy Guide as well, plus exclusive 11 legendary foil cards, 400 sleeves, 4-player dashboards. This one's a mix of extra content as well as premium deluxeified stuff over there. And then over here we can see the add-ons if you want to buy anything individually or separately and do the math yourself and which combination of things works best for you. Then over here you can go through all of that. Then we have this fun gauge over here, which is a fun, cute little thing that I think more campaigns can do because it's just interesting. They're not tying it to anything other than this hypothetical generic idea of buzz and excitement, but then there'll be a surprise mystery reveal. Now, most of these things will generally fall in the category of it will unlock. Most of these things do. It's kind of weird if you don't do it. If you have this, like, we're going to slowly make our way towards this undefined endpoint. Oh, look, we didn't make it. It's not as cool when people do that, but it still buys into the hype, the fun of keeping things moving, keeping things going, all that typical stuff you expect in Kickstarters. As far as should you back it, should you not, the short version is I'm not sure how available this game will be, and that is going to heavily factor into here. I do not think this will hold its value in the secondary market. If you are interested in backing this one and selling it, I am skeptical, not confident, but I'm skeptical it's going to hold its value in the secondary market. While I did enjoy the game, it's fairly expensive for a card game. It is a lot of money for a card game, and card games generally, there's a lot of card games that come out every year, and so it's just which ones will stand out and which ones are going to stand out enough that you can say, hey, you know, this deck of cards, you know, this box full of like 150, 200 cards that I bought for $50, I'd like it to sell it to you now for $50 as well. Generally, that's going to be a little harder, just the very nature of what it is and the price point attached to that. So I'm not confident at all that it'll hold its value. Your options for getting this are going to be the Kickstarter. I do not know the retail plans. There are Kickstarter exclusives that will absolutely help. But overall, I would say that while I like the game, while it's an easy, if you like this genre, then I do recommend checking it out. I am not confident of the fact that it'll hold its value. Moving on, we have War Room, a Larry Harris game. This is one of this, along with Fighters of the Pacific, I was going to cover the past 2 weeks and then just kept pushing it off because, well, they had a nice long span of time to go, and the past 2 weeks were much busier than this week. War Room, 2nd edition, ever so slightly streamlined. I love that, by the way. They say it over here. The 2nd edition is ever so slightly streamlined. I just love that little nuance there. It's like we tweaked a few things. We could have called it a 1st edition. We just chose not to. I like that little suggestion there. But either way, this one's going to be coming in. This is going to be $237,000, $1,700 raised from the creators of Axis and Allies, and of course from the creator of War Room. War Room, which is an 8.4 on Board Game Geek. That is astonishing. An 8.4 is a big deal over here. But the flip side is, now I don't know War Room 2nd edition, but War Room 1st edition, if you look at Board Game Geek, understand before you jump into this game has, just according to the general audience and the ratings accordingly, this game is rated best at 5 and 6 players. There is a significant drop-off if you're playing it at 4 or fewer. So just factor that in. It's recommended at 4 or fewer, but the best is very heavily and obviously 5 and 6 players. And the playtime coming in at 2 to 6 hours. That is a big range, and we'll get into that in a little bit in this page, but that could be a very, very long experience. This may be a big commitment in terms of jumping into it. That said, if that hasn't scared you off, then we can move on to the price tag for $137 plus shipping to get all of this delicious goodness. Now, that's still a good price, to be very clear. War Room, if you look at their website, and if you look at the secondary market, War Room regularly goes in for the $200 to $250 price range, depending on used or new or current availability, all of that. That is a big deal, or between print runs for that matter. You can find copies for $300, $350 on the secondary market. So that price tag, while it is not cheap, and that player count and that play time are not cheap things, at the end of the day, this is one that has historically held its value overall. This is one that I am pretty confident, unless they drastically change. I mean, they're saying over here the post-Kickstarter price is $200 instead of the $240 that the 1st edition currently is. So I don't know their plans or looking at it that way, but even if we assume $200, the $137 plus shipping is already a better deal from that alone, and like I said already, this has generally held its value just fine in the secondary market, so I do believe that Kickstarter is your best opportunity to get your hands in this game if you are anyways interested in it, if those other things didn't scare you off. Past that, War Room is basically a game where it's like it's Risk and Axis and Allies, and that, did I say Risk earlier? I think I meant Axis and Allies. If I said he's designer of Risk, I meant he's designer of Axis and Allies in War Room, so forget anything I said about Risk. But overall, yeah, it's giving you that core general war game feel with hidden simultaneous planning actions of actions, writing down, I'm going to move these troops here, I'm going to do this, and then executing that all at once. Combine that with the actual general gameplay, the actual things that are just making this a streamlined, solid World War II game. This is a meaty experience. This is the Twilight Imperium of, well, not sci-fi, of historical combat. This is a intense, involved experience that is the kind of thing that will be great for those afternoons that you just want to have a solid Sunday hanging with the buds and destroying each other in the grand scheme of the world stage. but you know, it's a big commitment. That is effectively going to be War Room. So basically, it's a solid pledge, single pledge, a good price point on a game that is a second edition, a streamlined version, probably for the better, but not always guaranteed, of an 8.4 on Board Game Geek. Moving on, we have Heroes of Barcadia, another board game adjacent. This is number 2 of, I believe, 3 board game adjacent things we have. Board game adjacent just meaning that like it's not designer board games. Like Heroes of Barcadia, not even listed on Board Game Geek as a game. If you try searching for Barcadia on Board Game Geek, you find nothing. Okay, that's a big. If a game is not on Board Game Geek, is usually a reason in terms of the target audience. Does not make it a bad game, but just in terms of target audience overlaps. Drink once. Well, I mean, good timing for a drink, right? Heroes of Barcadia, for those who do not know, is going to be a game where your mug represents your health. So you're going to have a full mug of beer or whatever beverage you so want. Maybe you want to be sober when you drink this game. I don't know. And every time you lose health, you're going to drink from your mug because your mug has health points on the side over here. So you're going to drink till the health point, and whenever you heal, you'll refill your mug. It's an excellent concept for a party game. Not a game I have any interest in playing, but an excellent concept for a party game. For those who are interested, for those who want that in their collection, this is very unique. You're going to move your mug. Your mug is going to be an adventure. You're going to move your mug around the board. Let's see if we can find some more stuff. We have waterproof. By the way, just to be clear here, looking at this image over here, whoever did this over here is a monster. I don't care how waterproof your components are. This person has no respect for humanity, for board games. They're probably hurt and torture small animals on the side. Just saying, this person is a monster. But that aside, you're gonna have your mugs, you're gonna have your coasters as you set up your dungeon. Go through it. This is gonna be coming to you from Roll Crit, the same company, the former of ThinkGeek.com, and this is bringing you just tons of different options and pledge tiers. And yes, there are exclusives as well. For $60, you get Heroes of Barcadia. For $80, you get the Party of Barcadia. For Champions of Barcadia, $70. For $95, you get the Party. Just to be clear, by the way, over here, once you get the $70 range, the Champions, you get the digital version of the game. That is nonsense, okay? This whole game's appeal, the whole specialty of this game is the fact that you have a mug of alcohol that is your life. Okay? That's the whole appeal here. That's what makes this game special. How do you have a digital version of that? Then it's just the inferior version of other games. If you're going to have a selling point, then own it. Putting it on digital version. I hope they better have some sort of rule about how you have to have a mug in front of you that is full of beer, and every time your digital representation lowers, you have to drink that beer. If they do not have that, then that is nonsense, and I want no part of it. Then we have a Lord of Arcadia, $1,500. Just basically giving you a whole chunk of stuff of everything. But we're not done yet. For $2,500, you can be the king of Arcadia, getting your own custom mug and monster and all those things. And then the Merchant of Arcadia, okay, fine, that's just, a retailer pledge and all that. Speaking of which, they did that retailer pledge thing we've talked about in the past. For $35, you see the Merchant of Arcadia, and you scroll down. We've talked about this. Ivy Games talked about this. I've talked about this. The idea that we have this price fixing, so to speak. You scroll down. You're like, $35. I can do that. And then you realize that $35 is not your price point. That is the retailer pledge to jump in on the game. In fact, your price point is going to be $60. So as soon as you're scrolling down, you think it's a $35 game, and you find out it's double the price. Got to stop doing that. Have your retailer pledge be $160 or $200, and then it locks you in for whatever, and you can figure out the details later. Do not have your retailer pledge be the cheapest pledge tier that you can possibly find. But that is going to be Heroes of Arcadia. Oh, and should you back it, should you not? I have no confidence here. Generally, once we move outside the realm of typical designer board games, where I do know the market, whenever you have these things that are kind of board game adjacent, it can go either way. They do have stretch goals, exclusive stretch goals. So they have Kickstarter exclusives here, which means there is entirely a chance that people will become enamored with this game, and copies of this game will be going for twice the price on eBay because people want it. Do I have that confidence? No, because for every single game that has that, outside of board games but manages to hold its value, whenever we have one of those, there's 10 that don't. So I don't know where this one falls. I don't know if the roll of crit or the background or just the general theme. I mean, 4,200 backers and $350,000 is nothing to sneeze at. It is entirely possible that the demand for the exclusives of this game will make it hold its value, but I have no such confidence. This market's always a little crazier when you start dealing with this semi-half popular, half whatever, and not just the typical range of designer board games. Moving on, we have BoardMaster, the third and final board game adjacent-ish thing. This is going to be basically a book, so to speak, 50 games on one board, 50 different games, historical games, and you construct the board as you play. You see this graphic here? That's legitimate. You basically have little tiles. Let's see if we can find over here. You're going to have different games you can play on a different board. How do you get those different boards? Well, when I first saw it, I thought it was like a digital platform. It's not. What you have over here is you're going to have your actual board stored in here. You will individually pull out the tiles and set up your board every single time you play. You want to play chess? Well, then go ahead and make your chess board. You want to turn it into a different game? Make a different board. Now, color me skeptical. I don't see how that's worth it. I don't see how making your individualized chessboard every single time and then resetting it up every single time, that just seems like so much work compared to other options on the table. Coming in at $100 for that game. And look at that. This is, I mean, the design is excellent. You have this little design, you push down the tiles, they pop up, beautifully designed. Still seems like a lot of work just to get to the point where you're playing a game. Granted, it's not the level of work of many other games that you and I play. At the same time, one of the appeals of abstract games is going to be their simplicity, and you've just taken that away just so that you can have 50 games at a time. So instead of spending $100, what I will recommend, this is on Amazon and it's used because it's no longer in print, but all of you who know this are going to be like, Alex has good taste, that guy has good taste, which is going to be this over here. The Book of Classic Board Games. If you are interested in the other one over there, if you're interested in the BoardMaster, check out the Book of Classic Board Games by Klutz Press. This is available for $7.61 used. You can buy a whole bunch of used copies. This is a used copy for $2.10 plus shipping, I assume. But I don't know if they'll come with the pieces, by the way. You may need to buy a bunch of tokens. The game, basically, the Book of Classic Board Games is 15 games, classic board games from Go, Reversi, Mancala, Nine Man's Morris, whole bunch of games. I grew up on this stuff. This was awesome. Okay, I loved playing all these games. Possibly not for you, depending on what games you're playing nowadays, but this is nostalgia heaven for me over here, this Book of Classic Board Games. And available on Amazon. Sure, you can get the hardcover one for $100, or if you're really cool, you can go ahead and type in this and find the one that's gonna be like $900. There's like a $900 one. I don't know what it is. I saw one earlier for $900. It was insanity. Either way, don't get that one. Get this one for $62. Don't get the $7 one. There's a $7 one. I just showed it to you. But yeah, that is going to be that. You can get either one of these options. Go ahead and get the BoardMaster if you want it. If this type of genre appeals to you and you want something with more color, and the reason the Book of Classic Board Games works is because it's 15 pages and you just turn the page every single time and then play with the black and white pieces plus the 2 dice that the board provides for you. And that is going to be the Book of Classic Board Games and BoardMaster, and just my recommendation there. Moving on to the last of the day, but not by any shot the smallest, is going to be Deliverance. Deliverance, the game of spiritual warfare. So, this is a game brought to you by Andrew Lowen, first time created, but not his first experience in the Kickstarter space at all. This is going to be a dungeon crawler with a spiritual angel versus demons theme. It's going to be one where you level up your characters, you level up your angels, you get the gear, equipment, you give them abilities as you slowly go through the game and try to basically tackle all the stuff, all the demons, all the baddies, until eventually you fight the overwhelming evil demon lord that comes up and fights you. Antiochus rises up in front of you and you have to take him out and destroy him. There are a few things that have me interested in the game. To begin with, we have Sam Healy, whose taste in board games has always aligned with my own. Deliverance is packed with thematic goodness. Each time I've played it, I come away feeling like I've been enacting the pages of a Frank Peretti novel. It's a great answer to the herefore ignored genre Christian fantasy dungeon crawler. Cool. We have a testimonial from Babylon Bee, which I don't care about Babylon. I mean, I like Babylon Bee. They're funny, but I don't care about, this particular over here. What I do like, though, is what they're saying over here. The whole game is balanced on that nice edge. Both times I've played, we got to the final boss and said, well, we might as well pack it in. There's just no way, unless. Now that I love, because Cthulhu Death May Die, one of my favorite games of all time, I love the fact that every single game, I don't know if I'm losing or winning until the very, very end. That escalation of you becoming more powerful and the Elder One becoming more powerful and then fighting go to the end, that has me, this testimonial, more so than Sam Healy's, has me incredibly intrigued by the game, just because, I like that end game finale. I like games ramping up towards a finish. That's basically going to be the core aspect of Deliverance. A few other things to go through in terms of the general pledges. Let's cover the pledge levels. So, pledge levels. We have a few options over here. We have $59 for the base game. We have $89 for the deluxe edition. Maybe I'll do it over here instead. So, $59 for the base game. What does that give you? It gives you, the box, it gives you the standees, the map, the tokens, the 5 angels, the intercessor, the 72 angel talents, 8 demon minions, 32 demon talent cards, 7 fallen princes, 21 fallen prince talent cards. Again, that whole aspect, everyone's just leveling up in this game. You and the baddies are all leveling up. We have battle cards, we have Prince Darkness, Heavenly Treasure, all these things in the game. And then from there we have, moving on, we have the deluxe edition. Deluxe edition, which is giving you everything else, but it's giving you everything in the base game plus the following additional gameplay. Again, good on you for doing that same aspect, the additional content showing up over there. So we have, angel miniatures as well for all the game. We have include standees plus minis for all unlocked angels, for Michael, for Shula, for Sardius, for Gabriel, for Christian, for Azrael. We have Uriel, we have Miko, we have River Watcher? Miko? But either way, we have additional dice, more angel talents. I mean, you got me at more angel talents. 15 total talents per angel extra. That's just more powers and abilities, power and abilities are my jam. We have a plastic insert as well, so that basically that upping of $30 gives you a decent amount of content, including a plastic insert. Granted, we don't know how good the insert will or won't be, but still an additional amount of extra content. Then we have the all-in pledge for $149. What do you get for that? You're going to get a bunch of metal coins, you get metal courage tokens, and a large neoprene mat. So that's a much bigger jump of, what is that, $60 extra for some metal coins plus these Kickstarter limited exclusive items. So it depends. I mean, $60 is a lot of money extra for basically coins at metal mat. It's entirely reasonable if you want the coins at metal mat, but it's not that much of a deal if you don't care about one or the other. Moving on from there, we have the Angel Investor. For $749, we can get all these painted miniatures over here. Painted angels, not miniatures. They don't have miniatures for the demons, to be clear, but they do have painted miniatures for the angels. $749, and they got a bunch of people to bite for that. They have 28 backers with 2 spots left. If you want those painted miniatures, this is your chance. You got 2 spots left as of now. Hopefully by the time you watch this, there's still 2 spots left, because otherwise I just gave you hope, and there is no hope, only darkness and eternal damnation. Then we have $1,499 for the Archangel Investor. The Archangel Investor is going to be giving you all the stuff, plus the signed original sketch art, plus signed Deliverance prototype, basically more stuff. And then they got another 7 pledges for that. I am curious, why 7? 30 makes sense to me, but why 7? What is special about the number 7 that they weren't like 10 backers? Make this 10. Maybe there'll be 3 more people who are interested. Why 7? Is it the Angels? I don't know. Either way, I'm curious about that. Maybe there's a reason for it. And then from there we have stretch goals. Stretch goals, which are giving you, and these are all deluxe only, not the base game for what we've seen so far. Deluxe only, the plastic insert, the 4 prayer cards, the dice upgrade. Okay, this is not, deluxe only, fine. There's other things. We have 4 prayer cards, we have Aerial Flame God, deluxe only, we have 3 Aerial tokens, Linen Finish upgrade, Michael talents, Angel talents, Spot UV treatment, 4 Demon talents, Miko prayer cards, basically more and more stuff with more to come. We still have, how many days left? We have 24 days to go, $189,000 raised. This is day 1 raised. Overall seems to be doing a fine job. So, fine job, not final job. So, should you back it, should you not? This one, I believe, this is a tough one. It's a little hard to know. First time publisher. The theme is very specific. This is it's a dungeon crawler with a Christian theme. Now, doesn't mean you have to be Christian to play it, not in the slightest, but anyone, you could be completely not religious and be very interested in the gameplay aspects of this game that look amazing. But it also has that overlap. So, it is a little bit of an interesting one in that sense. I believe, I would say I'm not confident, but I do believe this is likely to hold its value, especially primarily at that, I would say that deluxe pledge is going to be your best bet. That all-in does not seem like a great deal in terms of the extras you get versus the price point, and the base pledge just leaves too much stuff out. That extra $30 buys you so much content. I would say deluxe pledge is likely your best bet as far as getting this game. In terms of it looks like it's a solid game. Looks like from people I've played it online. This is available online as well, by the way. I'm pretty sure about that. Let's see if we can find it. I'm 90% certain I saw it available online. We have somewhere, maybe not necessarily. I am pretty sure I saw this available online, but I'm not seeing it now. Let me just do one more quick scroll and see if I can find it before I give up on the online aspect of things. There we go. There we go. See, I knew it was. Play it now in Tabletop Simulator. So yeah, so you can play it online, and I've seen generally good feedback from people who have played it. So overall, I believe this is a good game, combined with a lot of stuff in it. The $89 price point for what you get does seem pretty decent. Not necessarily amazing in terms of the content, but overall decent with a fairly unique theme. I believe this is one that's likely to be in the range of holding its value. I don't think you're going to be getting a lot more back in it. I don't think you'll be losing a lot. I think there's enough of a good game combined with what's going on over here that overall this is likely, but certainly not a guarantee to hold its value. And that, at 42 minutes, is not bad. That is where we are. Fairly short week, all things considered. A phrase I like to say way too often. But that's basically it. Until next time, I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I'm going to take a sip. This was an easy week. I will see you next week with something, apparently, and then we'll be back, because it's going to ramp up again. We generally have these highs and lows, these lulls. I think next week is a lull. The week after that, on the other hand, the week after that, we're going to have some fun stuff. Even next week, by the way, what do we have? We have, give me 1 second, let me just talk about some stuff we have next week. What is the date? It's the 14th right now. For you, it's the 14th. I'm just mentally adjusting. Okay, we have Paradox Initiative, Scarface 1920. We have First Ascent, Force of Pangea, Cyber Odyssey. We have Battlefish, Zorro. We have Valor and Villainy. No, that's going to be the week after. Valor and Villainy is going to be the week after. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll go through it. But between this coming week and the week after, we'll definitely have something for the following week. I don't know if we'll have this week. Time will tell. I will find out either way. But no matter what happens, I will see you next Monday. As always, have a good one. Okay, so as a note, yesterday, I had like no friends yesterday. It's all good. It's all good. Sometimes it happens, but just all the timing of like the 3 people I normally play games with on the weekend, the timing worked out for one of those weeks when nobody is available, and I was like, that is awesome. That means I'm playing ISS Vanguard and Assassin's Creed all day because I need to get some solo time in on those anyways. I set up Assassin's Creed, and that was a mistake because I only played Assassin's Creed all day. I played Assassin's Creed, the board game, for roughly 8 hours yesterday. Yesterday for me is Saturday in this case. But I played roughly 8 hours of Assassin's Creed, the board game. I'm like 5 or 6 scenarios in. I am loving every minute of it. It is easily, and this is not good for me, by the way, very clearly not good for me. Even I spent the past, 2 weeks justifying the fact that I have a bunch of games that I give a 5 to. And Assassin's Creed, while the review's not coming yet, I assume it'll be my first 5 in June. But again, the good news is it'll be like what I've said is it seems just from stats that I give 1 out of every 10 games a 5 out of 5 just so far, and 1 out of every 10 games I review a 5 out of 5. Half the games I play I don't review. But so yeah, and we'll see how that goes. But Assassin's Creed is leaning that way. Keep in mind it is based on V Commandos, and V Commandos was a really good game that I gave a 4 out of 5. And Assassin's Creed is just better in enough ways and enjoyable enough that I think I have to give it a 5 out of 5. It still has one critique that I don't love for V Commandos, but even that is better, which is at the end of the day, you can have stealth checks that is a 1/3 chance of failing, which is just not fun for anyone, especially if you just have an early stealth check early in the game. It just doesn't go your way. You might have a scenario that's just through the luck of the die, just doesn't work out your way. But even then, there's ways to mitigate it. Even then, there are abilities and equipment and gear you get throughout the game that will mitigate that even further, giving you more room to explore before you have that really unlucky roll. So, overall, let me see if I can show it to you. I don't know if I can. Let's see. I don't know over here. This can be like a messed up. Okay, you can't see it there, but on that table in the background, is Assassin's Creed. It's been set up for. I'm simultaneously testing that new table that I got by playing a solo game on it for 8 hours. The good news is I haven't moved it off that table. Bad news is I wouldn't recommend that table for solo play yet. It's good. It does the job, but if you're exclusively looking for solo play, I don't think it's the best. I'll get into that in the review of the table. That's an aside. But overall, Assassin's Creed is awesome. I plan on finishing this video, doing a review for Bullet, which is overdue, and then following it up with playing more Assassin's Creed before reluctantly turning to ISS Vanguard. I love ISS Vanguard. The reluctantly is because I'm currently obsessed with Assassin's Creed. But that's gonna be that. Past that, as usual, if you are a Patreon or want to become a Patreon, right after this, I am going to be filming, well, before Bullet. So after this, I'm going to be filming my Don't Back Any Single Game video. It's basically Unfair and Unbalanced, a series I do every single week where I tell you all the reasons you should not back the games, not making them up genuine reasons, but being less balanced and trying to focus more on the reasons you should save money and, well, just get Assassin's Creed instead. Past that, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and as always, I hope you have a good one.